David Crayden, welcoming you back to another episode of Stand on God. How's your Saturday? Oh, we had a bit of rain last night. Snow again. Could be worse. Whole country's looking at horrible weather everywhere we go. I'll be back in a minute with more. And by the way, that intro you saw there, the transformer part of that came from Big Red himself, or the human embodiment of Big Red, Chris Barber. And he'll be joining the show shortly as soon as he can get tuned in. He's literally at the Canada-US border right now. And we're going to be talking to Chris as soon as possible about a lot of things. And we'll be right back.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes, Chris Barber is going to be joining us this morning, or I guess it's this afternoon now. Wow, 12:30 already, 12:30 Eastern time. I've got Katie Pisitne's latest message as well. That just went up on Facebook yesterday. Talked to Katie yesterday at length about a lot of things. We'll be discussing that Freedom Convoy 2.0, but we want to talk about Freedom Convoy with Chris Barber, who will be joining us in a minute here. This is David Crayden for Stand on Guard and Crayden's Right News, www.craydensrightnews.com. You can find all of my information on there, all of my news, everything. Be a subscriber. We need you to subscribe, not just to the station, but be a subscriber on my Substack as well. When you do that, you are fighting back, and you're helping me to fight back against the forces that are aligned against freedom in this country, the forces that want to stop us from having foundational democratic rights. We are fighting a battle for free speech right now in this country. I fight that battle every day. Please be a subscriber. Go, when you watch the station, when you watch the broadcast, hit the bell, like the station, subscribe to the station. We've got to build up these subscriptions. We've got to hype the YouTube station. We've got to hype every broadcast. We've got to get out there and say why Crayden's Right, why Stand on Guard, and why www.craydensrightnews.com is leading the way in independent media against the forces of tyranny that are aligned against us. We're going to fight back. We're going to continue to fight back because we believe we can win together. And one of the ways you can do that is by supporting this station with any way you possibly can. I am asking for your support because we need it, and we need to move forward for freedom in this country. And I can't say that often enough. So that's our message to you today on this Saturday, December 20, 5 days away for Christmas. Before I forget, and I always do, well, not always, but let's have a look at the merchandise. Here we are, 5 days away from Christmas. We've got a 15% discount available today and for the next few days.
Ho, 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 ho.
Who cares?
So I want to go over something, friend. We're still waiting for Chris to get on board here. He's just getting set up, literally at the Canada-U.S. border. Probably, I would guessing he's either in Montana, on the border of Montana or North Dakota, from where he is in Saskatchewan. But it's always exciting, and he'll be joining us soon. But want to show you. Now look at this. Isn't this exactly what Katie Pasidney warned us all about when she said the CFIA is off the rails? Now, were these birds tested? And if they were tested, were they accurately tested? Because we know that the system that's being used to test for the avian influenza is the same system was being used to test for COVID. And it's accurate 10% of the time. Yes, I said 10% of the time. That's absolutely incredible. So it's not accurate. It doesn't work. This is why I'm going to show you what Katie just said yesterday. She got back after 4 or 5 days, and I called it, I joked with her. I said, it's like military leave. You needed to get away from things for a while. And that's, of course, is exactly what she did. She got away from things for a while. And she was able to just get her head together, get organized. And now she's back and she's ready to fight. And we're going to be talking tonight with some other experts. I don't want to reveal their names yet. We're going to be talking to some experts.
Hi, everyone. Katie with you.
All right. We're going to be talking to some experts tonight in a group telephone call about how to overrule the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Because you won't believe this, folks. Their farm is still under quarantine. Still under quarantine after how long has it been now? Since the massacre? Well, we all know that was the night of it started on November 6th. And here we are, December 20th. Well, that's literally a month and a half after the massacre. And the farm is still under quarantine. I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. But here's Katie giving us all an update. And she just put this out yesterday. Like I said, we talked for a good 20 minutes yesterday about things. And she's ready to come back and fight with the Federation for Farmers.
Hi, everyone. Katie with Universal Ostrich. And I just wanted to make a quick video to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who continues to pour in the letters of prayer. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to individually address a gratitude and send gratitude to every one of you at this moment, but your prayers are what get us through some of the hardest moments. I know there's a lot of people that say, they're gone, get over it. But that's what's wrong with so many that are sleeping in Canada, hibernating. They're going to wake up this spring to the stark reminder that if we don't rise up and we don't fight for our agricultural sector and our farms, that everybody's farms are going to look like this. They're going to be bare. They will be littered with the mess and the loss and uncertainty. And when that all comes knocking at our door and we become directly affected by it, it's going to be too late. So it's just one of those things. We are going to keep fighting, and we're going to stand tall and strong, and we're going to be united. And but this message was just a thank you. Thank you to every one of you that continue to phone the house. You send emails, you write letters, which we're getting in the mail every day, of prayers and hope. They make us cry. We can only read 1 or 2 a night because we just start crying. But it's tears of love. It is tears of what Canada is. That is what we're fighting for. It's the Canada that is beautiful. It's unity, people, and it's casting division aside, and it's restoring hope in so many. So just thank you. Thank you from my mom. from myself, from Dave, from the farm. Your love and unwavering support and commitment to seeking justice with us, accountability and transparency and change across Canada to protect our farmers. It's pretty amazing. So, God bless. Thank you for being with us. And we do have a lot of really exciting stuff happening. But one thing that's, I think, the most beautiful is that we have the Christmas season upon us, and we're just trying to find some momentum to be in the spirit. How do you be in the spirit when you come out and you see the footprints in the mud of all your animals, and you are missing the booming in the fields and the pinging of the fence because they'd be pecking it? We find that in each other, and we lift each other up when we're down, and we remind each other that we're not alone. So thank you for doing that. Love you.
That Albertans can go to Washington, D.C.
Now we're just going to show a bit of this until Chris is ready to get in. Yep, he's here. Thank you. He's here. Thank God.
Yeah, we're just going to keep speaking the truth. That's all we can do. So, okay, thanks, buddy. You guys much.
Hey, this is a live moment with Chris Barber.
Sorry about that.
You know, there's an old. Am I coming through here, Chris?
You are. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hey, it's no problem. There's an old expression from live television where they'd say you have to stretch, because sometimes the show would go too fast and they had like 5 minutes to go at the end of the show before the next show started. So they'd say, and there's a famous incident with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis where the producer comes on stage and says, stretch. They got 5 minutes. 5 minutes, they got to stretch. So they just break into song and dance for 5 minutes until the time.
Well, I apologize for my tardiness there. I was like 15 minutes from the border, and I thought the best time to do this is if I just stop in duty free and wait and log in. Most people know my day was it was taken up yesterday, so I did a little bit of driving, and then after the final decision, I'll be honest with you, I went into the lounge in the truck stop. I had supper and I had a beer, and I just edged for the rest of the day and went to bed early. And of course, I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning and chilled out.
Well, it's so apropos you're sitting in your truck right now, and that is incredible, because I was not at the courthouse yesterday, and it really it took me by surprise. There's just been so much going on, and I was there for 95% of the other trial. But I found this interesting, because the judge says this the Crown's application is denied, and basically said this was overreach. And I saw a judge, and I heard a judge, Heather Perkins McVeigh, who's been there from day one, September 2024, of this trial, and say that this is essentially overreach. There was absolutely no reason to call for the so-called forfeiture of your truck. So I'm wondering, just before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, your initial thoughts. How did you feel when you finally got a verdict that I'm sure you felt was just and right?
Well, two parts to that, I guess. I really struggled with. Sorry, we're getting somebody else stopping here for a visit, so this is my life, unfortunately. I stop the truck somewhere and everybody sees it sitting, and they come up to the truck to say hi. So give me 2 seconds, David, and I'll just
no problem.
So 2 seconds here.
Oh, this is gold. This is gold.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah,
No, that's
So
gold, Chris. This is cinema verite here in terms of. But we are so used to hearing bad verdicts, bad sentencing, and defeat for the freedom forces in Canada. It's so nice, at least, to get a small victory here. Well, no, it's not a small victory. For you, it isn't. And I
no,
think for everybody who sees your truck as what it is, emblematic of freedom. So, once again, what were your thoughts?
well, it was two parts. I'm grateful and thankful that she ruled against the forfeiture, of course. But when she was reading out her decision in its entirety, all 40 pages of it, it was almost like a talking points from CBC. To be honest with you, she was using the words occupation and mass mischief and the blocking of streets, and she found that my son was not innocent in this ordeal because he was with me in Ottawa. My parents were not innocent in this because they donated to keep me there in the fight. And I woke up this morning kind of thinking about just some of the rhetoric and the lettering and the wording used in her decision, and I kind of thought, like, that's just unfortunate they continue down this road. Anybody that was in Ottawa during the protest and seen what actually happened knows the true meaning behind the event, and knows that the government has just exaggerated all this stuff. I keep reliving it in my head, trying to think, was it that bad? It wasn't that bad. I was in downtown Ottawa for 3 weeks, and I slept in the downtown core every night, and I slept well. So we did our best. We went there with the best of intentions. The government is still, almost 5 years later, never been held to account for their actions during the convoy and their negative the treatment towards those patriotic, peaceful Canadian protesters, and wanted some sort of accountability from the government and those tyrannical mandates and measures that they implemented on Canadians throughout the COVID. Still, 5 years later, no accountability. It needs to come, and I think we're winning this in the long run. We're winning this. Canadians are waking up. I speak to more and more people daily about what actually happened and the direction that the country was going down. And yeah, it's been a long battle. I'll be honest when I say this. I was exhausted last night. I was tired, a lot of weight on the shoulders, and it as much as a good feeling is knowing that I don't have to worry about the future of my truck, that I can keep running it, making a living for myself. But the battle's far from over. There's still lots coming.
Well, yeah, there's still lots coming, and certainly this was another phase of the lawfare that the provincial government imposed upon you. I have to keep reminding people of that this was Doug Ford, and comment from somebody saying Ford pushed for it to take the truck. Yes, it was Doug Ford, a so-called conservative, a faux conservative, a progressive, not a conservative, who pushed for the forfeiture of your truck. This could have been stopped at any stage. There is no reason for this overreach. It cost you more money. It cost you more inconvenience, more lost sleep. And that was the point. This has been the point from day one, from all of this crap. It's all been about lawfare. It's all been about keeping you occupied, keeping you worried, keeping you fighting for the wrong things, which is just survival. But I think, if we look at this, you've won. Are you really expecting them to appeal this? Because I think the judge was fairly adamant that this is really not going to go anywhere. So don't bother.
I had a good conversation with John Carpay yesterday. He called me after the verdict. Of course, John Carpay is the owner, the man that runs Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Has been with us right from day one. That's helped us with so many things because so many Canadians are standing behind the Justice Center and keeping this fight going. And John said, expect an appeal. This Crown is absolutely vindictive and dead set on pure devastation for anyone that dared to question their morality through the COVID. Like they're still pushing on this. They won't give up. So I wouldn't put it past them to appeal it. If they do, I feel, and personally, I feel it just exposes them more for the crooks that they actually are. And bring it on. The most scary person in the world is someone who has nothing to lose. And when you keep coming, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm not going to quit standing. I'm not going to bow like so many did. I'm going to keep standing and putting the brave face forward. And the more I show composure and the more they keep showing who they really are, then I think more people are waking up to the fact. So if we have to be some of those people that wake more people up, then bring it on. I'm good for it.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. The scariest people in the world are those who have nothing to lose. And of course, that describes the government. That describes the crown here. They had nothing to lose here. No, you had everything to lose. Tamara had everything to lose. And they had nothing to lose. So, but it amazes me the persecution that they have demonstrated against both of you. And this, to me, when I first heard they were going to try to seize your truck, I said, this is bloody communism. This is way beyond any sort of normal court procedure. And of course, I remember the Crown Counsel outlining this in court a couple of months back now in Ottawa. Well, you had to sit there and listen to this crap about, well, this truck is so associated with a crime that it has to be taken away. This is
right.
And what they were doing, of course, was turning on its head the argument that Big Red represented freedom for a lot of people. It represented the Freedom Convoy. It represented essentially a victory, because I do believe you and Tamara and all of us who were there had a victory, because the COVID mandates did begin to relinquish. They did go down, and eventually they disappeared, despite the overwhelming support amongst politicians on the right, on the left, and the center. You saw through it. Tamara saw through it, and a lot of us who said, this is just a pile of bullshit, and why on earth are we putting up with this? But they turned that on its head and said, oh, it's so associated with a crime. And I find your comments interesting, because I noticed that too throughout the whole trial. The jurisprudence was always framed around the talking points of the CBC. Occupation. Sorry, what occupation? And posing a danger to the public peace and public security. And they just went on about this. And what do you think the legacy right now of the Freedom Convoy is? And I want my follow-up to that is, what do you think about these censorship and surveillance laws that are coming at us? Can we use the legacy of the Freedom Convoy to stop these bills?
Well, I guess, like our legacy for Freedom Convoy, the truth will be told. The truth is coming out. People will see that. You've always got your lost ones that obviously will follow every government narrative that comes out. When you control the messaging, you control the narrative, and the government is very good at controlling the messaging. But I believe that we're winning this. I believe more people are opening their eyes. One of the MPs that I speak with on a regular thing there, he said, we were told that you were the bad people from people in government. We were told that we should worry about you. And, I've met this person a number of times now, and said that how comes farther. There was obviously people in Convoy that we didn't want to associate with that did have bad name and credibility, and those were the ones that we tried to distance ourselves from. But in the end of the day, we were there for the right reasons. We went there in good faith. We wanted to have a conversation with the government. The government let us down. They did everything in their power and used every envelope the government has to crush us. And they're still working at that narrative too. And if you sit there and you listen to mainstream media daily and you listen to that narrative, then you're going to believe that. But when you open your eyes and get out there and listen to independent journalists like you'll open your eyes to a different reality. So going forward, I don't know. I get a lot of messages from people saying, like, when are we going to stand up? When are we going to do this again? Going back to Ottawa and another convoy, I don't think is a good idea. I think that Ottawa is the problem. And I'll say this again, it starts at home when we get involved in our local communities and we push into government. Perfect example, Andrew Lawton. He was with us in Ottawa. Now he's an MP, and now he's speaking out and he's on our side. We need more people like Andrew Lawton in this country that are going to pony up, get involved with politics, change things from within, and then this country will start to change. It's changed for the positive. But when we keep passing up on these opportunities to get involved in our community like that, this is how we've allowed the government to take such a stronghold on our freedoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Andrew Lawton. I have praised his work several times in my writing and my broadcasting, because he has taken the lead against these censorship and surveillance bills that are before Parliament right now. including Bill C9, which has gotten worse every time we look at it. It started out about hate symbols, which is bad enough because I said right away, oh my God, I'm going to have to get rid of a lot of books in my library because they've got symbols on it. They're going to be, and they said, oh, don't worry about that. They'll be exempt. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. This is going to be a legal nightmare, a quagmire if this bill is passed, especially if the religious exemptions go with it. But I'm telling people, even if they keep the religious exemption, so I can still read the Bible and my Muslim friends can still read the Quran without having it seized by the government, that's not good enough, because these hate speeches, this malicious comment, we see what's happening in Britain right now. It's been happening for over a year and a half. The cops come to your door, and they could easily come to my door and say, oh, we hear you had Chris Barber on your show today. He said some things that were really unacceptable, and you agreed with them. So we'll have to take you off the, we'll have to charge you for that.
It's coming.
Of course it's coming. But are you concerned that Canadians don't seem to realize that we are on the verge of losing a foundational right in this country called freedom of speech? Are you concerned about that, Chris?
Absolutely concerned about it. But like I said, could one person do anything about it right now? It takes a village to unite this country and make this change. But there's almost a part of me last week when we lost another Conservative MP over to the Liberal side, pushing us really closer to a majority, pushing them closer to a majority. I almost thought, I can't wait for another one to join. So they get the majority and they pass all these bills and they completely devastate Canada to a point where people actually wake up and say, oh, we've had enough, and they revolt. Like, they revolt and stand up and stand on the streets and make sure people know. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up to that fact right now. It scares me that so many people are so conditioned in this country to just follow that narrative and follow whatever Big Brother's looking out for you, right? They're not. And when that freedom's gone, it's going to take a lot to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take a lot to get it back. It's an interesting perspective. Maybe they should give us the worst, because right now it's like a Chinese water torture. It's drip, drip, drip. And we lose a little bit of freedom every day, every week. But do you think what's going on with Pierre Poilievre right now, with losing the MPs like this and the threats he might lose one or two more, and suddenly the polling is out there saying, oh, he's losing support amongst Conservative supporters, and he might have to face a leadership review and lose it in January. Do you think this is a bit of a psyop because they don't want us focused on Mark Carney's incredible corruption and his censorship bills?
Well, the backroom deals right now that are going on behind the Liberal, behind the Conservatives' back, trying to coax their MPs to cross the floor. There's a lot of bad stuff at play right now, and I think that's going to continue. And I think I said this the other day on a social media post. I'm like, it's funny that the media right now in Canada is trying to hold Pierre Poilievre to account for a position that he's never held. He's not the prime minister. He's never been the prime minister. He would like to be the prime minister, and I would like to see somebody different in there other than the current regime we have right now. But they use this narrative, and they're destroying the Conservative Party from in. And let's face it, nobody will tear another person down faster than a Conservative. I've seen so many different movements in this country been created in a conservative manner, and then the ego gets involved, and then it topples and people destroy it from within. The BC One Party was just the latest example of that. This is our trouble in Canada right now. We can't get together on the same page, on the same side, and fight for the proper thing. But guess who's straight line front and forward? The Liberals. They're collected. They know where they're going. They know what their motives are, and they keep pushing forward united. I wish Conservatives would do the same. It's right there in front of us. We just can't seem to get that together.
Well, yeah, I couldn't agree more. You referenced what happened with Dallas Brody. Fantastic leader, great woman. I had her on the show a month or so ago. I'm totally in sync with her in terms of what she was saying. But you're right. Why are we focusing on Pierre Poilievre? And it's like Mark Carney has done nothing except enrich himself and Brookfield Asset Management since he's been there. I have been advertising this regime as the most corrupt in Canadian history. Now, people say, oh, you're exaggerating, David. No, I'm not exaggerating. And in other times, the Liberals have been in power. At one point, they were in power for 22 years through Mackenzie King, through Louis Saint Laurent, 22 years of Liberal rule. And at that time, John Diefenbaker said, this Liberal government's probably very corrupt because it's been so close to the corporate establishment for decades now. Maybe it's time to just change the government. And I think that's an excellent point to raise right now, because Mark Carney is enriching himself as the prime minister. Brookfield Asset Management has done very well since he left the firm, unofficially anyway, to essentially his de facto presiding over it right now. And I think why Canadians are outraged about this, about what's going on, I really can't figure it out. They're more concerned about Pierre Poilievre losing a couple of members to the Liberals, but I do think that if Canadians finally get it about what Mark Carney's up to, about the grifting and the grabbing and the corruption, I cannot see how he can, these polls that suggest he's got 50-point-something% support amongst Canadians. I find it hard to believe, but I think we're being sold a scenario that says you've got Mark Carney, just relax and take it. And what you said there, I think maybe that's the only way out of this, because if we don't find out how bad things are, we'll just keep getting it in this incremental basis. So I think
look at how low they've gone. Justin Trudeau has enriched himself over the last 9 years. Mark Carney's now continued that job on. What have they done for Canada in the last 10 years? I'm trying to think of what they've actually done to improve Canadians' way of life in this country. We have inflation out of control. Adults my age have their children still living in their house right now because their kids can't afford to move out of the house and get their own house or an apartment. Nobody can afford rent anymore. This country is I've never seen it this divided. How many Christmas families will not be together in under a week from right now because of something that the government did to them to divide their own households? And that's a fact in this country right now. And this needs to be addressed. We're still going on, like I said, almost 5 years to the day now since Convoy, with no accountability for the actions that the Canadian government has done to their people, the citizens, the people that they're supposed to represent. And that's very, very sad that some in this country can't see that.
I wanted to mention it's been 6 weeks to the day, actually, 6 weeks to the day, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency massacred hundreds of ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farms. I followed that story basically from April on. I wasn't there at the very beginning because very few people were. But as soon as I heard about this, and I got to know Katie Pisitne very well, and she's become one of my best friends. And when I realized what was going on here, that this wasn't just about a bunch of ostriches at a farm. This was about the same government lying that's been going on, that went on through the Freedom Convoy. They wouldn't test these birds. They refused to because they just didn't think they had to. Just believe us. Just take our word for it. And of course, they never had any evidence these birds were ever sick. The overwhelming evidence they weren't sick, that they developed herd immunity. And so they occupied this farm. There's the occupation. This is what I found interesting. Ottawa wasn't occupied by the Freedom Convoy. This farm was literally occupied by a force of CFIA goons and the RCMP, who I've lost just about all the respect I used to have for. As an ex-military guy, I used to love the RCMP. I really don't anymore, after this incident especially. But did you look at that as it unfolded? And I was covering it on a daily basis because I was just so outraged about this poor family having to put up with this, excuse my language, constant bullshit from a government agency, bureaucrats out of control, bureaucrats gone wild. That's what I call bureaucrats gone wild. Did you look at it and say this has a lot of similarities to the Freedom Convoy? I called it the Freedom Convoy 2.0 very early in it, and Katie started using that expression as well. But did you see some similarities there?
I absolutely did, 100%. I watched government come in, and I knew people like Jim Kerr, Mike Quigley, those people, Katie, I knew that people were going to start getting arrested for doing the most simple thing. And then what would they do? They would impose conditions on them through the court release and make sure that they couldn't be part of it again. That's what they did with us in Convoy. That's what they did then. The lying, the slandering. This family, I just watched Katie there speaking before I came on here. I mean, what a trooper she is. I've talked to her a couple of times. She's an amazing human being. Here's a family running a business in the country, in the country of Canada, who had the government infringe on their rights, destroy their livelihood in front of their eyes, and walk away with them, left with a mess. And now the financial devastation that family has to go through for the rest of their life. One of the disheartening things I think I've seen in social media the last while is the people that were with us in Ottawa, the people that were standing against government overreach, that are finding out reasons to try and trash Katie and her family, and then all the division that comes along with that. I went so far as to call them fake freedom fighters, and I make a few really upset when I said that, but I said what I said, and I mean it. If this is where we are in the movement right now, where you have to start trashing somebody else who's losing their livelihood because they're getting more attention than you, it's a sad state. And I said that's some of the issues that I guess I've felt in the last number of years, watching this freedom movement kind of grow and become really amazing and then fall apart from within because of the people that were involved in it. I wish them all the best out in BC, and I still talk to Katie from time to time. It's going to be a long road ahead, and then they're financially devastated for the rest of their life. They probably will never recover from this, and I think a lot of people need to know that and think about that.
Well, that's a very good point, Chris, because I have been actively involved in trying to help them with fundraising that I've been doing on their behalf. I have absolutely no qualms about doing that because I think they were completely manhandled by the federal government. They were destroyed, and the government wants them to remain destroyed. I'm talking to the family tonight with a couple of people who are very interested and connected in ways to help them solve the quarantine, because it's incredible to me that 6 weeks after the massacre, the farm is still quarantined. They can't literally move anything. They can't clean up. They've got volunteers at the farm who are willing to get out there, roll up their sleeves, and help them clean up this mess. But the CFI is saying, no, I'm sorry, it's still quarantined because these birds were toxic. They were avian flu. You'll have to wait till the spring now. But we're hoping to get that quarantine lifted through some mechanisms that actually exist that I don't think the CFI is even aware of. But I think if we can do that, and I wanted to pick up on something you said. Why was there such animosity? And I won't mention any names. I'm not on here to be spiteful about people. I have done it, and I've mentioned people in the past, and there's no point in doing it. But there were people who were supportive of the Freedom Convoy who said some stupid, outrageous, nasty, spiteful things about Katie and about her family. What motivated these people to do that, in your opinion? Not that you necessarily know, but what do you think was going on here?
Ego, lack of notoriety. I've seen that personally. I've been personally attacked. Tamara's been personally attacked by people that we stood with in Ottawa. And I think it centralizes around, we're getting more attention than them at the present time, or, they felt like they should be held higher in whatever respect. And I've never asked for any of this to come my way. I stood up in February 2022. I got involved with something bigger than I ever anticipated it would be. I've tried really hard to return to life as normal. Unfortunately, the government has never wanted that to happen. They wanted to persecute me and others with it. And because of that, they've made us, I guess maybe made us larger than we ever needed to be, no more notorious. And because of that, others in there, the ego kicks in, they get really angry. They want to then destroy you because you're getting more attention. I've seen it personally. I've tried really hard to not mention names when you do this, because when you mention somebody's name, you empower them and you give them that. My instinct normally is to fight. I can fight with just about anyone. Bring it on. I love a good backroad scrap. But you got to pick your battles. And when you fight with certain people on those lines, all you do is feed that ego and feed that narrative. So I've chose to ignore it. I will speak about it, but I don't mention names. Most people know who we're talking about, though.
Yes, most people know what we're talking about. And I don't, something Charlie Kirk said once, and, there's a tragedy that keeps unfolding because it's just so many layers to this now. But he always said, don't respond to the trolls. They love it too much. And I do that as a rule. I get attacked on here every day by people who say you're not objective enough about the Freedom Convoy. You're not objective enough about the farm. You're just too attached to these people, and you. And I always say, I'm not going to get into a tit for tat. I'm not going to get into a throwing mud back and forth, because it serves absolutely no purpose. I have a job to do, and I'm trying to do it. But so Tamara is now working for Rebel News. I just heard this week, and I'm wondering, do you have any desire to write a book about your experiences?
Yeah, I've talked about it a little bit. There's going to be something coming in the future right now. There's going to be a ghostwriter that kind of starts getting me going on this, and I've been good. I don't know if you've watched me walk into the courtroom for the better part of 2 years, and you know that I've always kept a little book with me, and I journal while we're going through the court day. So now for me to go back through that book and try and put everything into words, man, just the trial for the forfeiture is probably a full chapter. We're going to put something together. Life has been so busy the last while. I've been running my tail off with the business, trying to keep the trucks running. Most people know we got 5 trucks out there on the road right now. We employ 7 people, I think it is. We look after a lot, and it's always busy. If I'm not at the shop fixing something, I'm in the office doing paperwork, or I'm not out here driving truck myself. So I try to balance that right now, and it seems like I don't have a lot of extra time. I can hardly get through my messages right now. That's my biggest thing, trying to keep up on the messages. So I'm hoping we get a little bit of break in the new year. Hope I have some time to just get some downtime, and I can start looking into that, and we can start working on this book. There's no run for politics for me in the future. I keep seeing that in the comment section. Chris, when are you running for politics? I'm not a politician. I'll be a better critic online than I would ever be a politician. But I appreciate everybody thinking that I'm good enough for that, but I'm really not. I'm just a trucker, a loudmouth. I'm good. I just want to return to normal some days, but it's not going to happen, I don't think, for some time.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say you're not going to get involved in politics, because I was involved in politics for many, many years, and it's not somewhere I ever want to go back to, because you lose your freedom to speak your mind, and you're always voicing party policy, and you really never have those honest moments that you can have when you're not aligned with a political force and a political party. And so many MPs just don't find they can really speak freely. And so I think it's great that you're not going to get involved in politics. So what was the outpouring like yesterday from all of your supporters out there?
Oh, I gave up. I lost control of the messages. So I've been working my way through all the different social media apps and all the messages. And I think I looked on TikTok, and there was over 2,000 comments on videos and mentions. And it'll take me a while to kind of rebound from that. I'm the guy where if you send me a message, it's my utmost responsibility to try and respond to you, whether I just like your comment or I reply verbally or whatever I can do. So I try to just take that time right now to stop, and then when I have minutes, I'll try and respond to everybody and do my best. The outpouring of support, it's been awesome. We did a run of Big Red calendars here on the website for bigredmerch.ca, and sold out 100 calendars in a matter of hours, and then people were almost angry because we sold so fast. So we did another order of 100 calendars, and those sold out in like 4 hours, and then we said that was it. So people they're supporting. Like there's so much support out there. Everywhere I stop, I pulled into the parking lot here, and people are walking up to the truck. Everywhere I stop, everywhere I go, there's somebody saying hi. It's amazing. It's a humbling experience too, to know that I get to handle the wheel of this infamous Canadian iconic truck here, and I think I'm going to take it home and wash it up and put it away for the winter. It's probably had its salt baths for the last couple of weeks here, and I'm getting kind of tired. I'm already starting to have lights flicker on me from the green, the calcium chloride in the States. It gets run through the electrical system. So I'll wash her up, and I'll bring it back out in April when the roads are better again, and that'll be the day for Big Red.
But despite your being under house arrest, you're able to do your job. There's no real impediments that have at least given you your livelihood back.
It's been a struggle. Like everything we do has to be on a schedule. So the schedule has to be made up twice a week. At first it was once a week, and that wasn't really working. My job changes so frequently through the week. A farmer will have a tractor breakdown that's got to get hauled now. Like this last couple of weeks, I've been stuck in nothing but storm after storm and delayed. So I think I was supposed to be home by 5 o'clock today, and I had to phone yesterday before the office closed and have that amended to 10 o'clock. So I had ample time to get home and get things washed up and put away. It's working. It's definitely a change of pace. I just can't. I need a part in Swift Current, so I can't just jump in the pickup and run to town to get a part. I have to have that on schedule. So, the confinement to home, I'm on the farm. I've got my shop and my barns and my animals and, everything there to work on. I can stay pretty busy at home. It's not the end of the world thing. It could have been a lot worse, but I'm working with it. You adapt as you go, and it's a different way of life. And we have another 10 months of that to go through yet. And I think summer will probably be a little bit more tricky. We'll miss our camping season. We'll miss our holidays. Side-by-side rides with the dogs. They'll have to be around the yard now, I guess. But we'll adapt and we'll just work through it. So.
Well, you mentioned the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms and John Carpe, who is a frequent guest on the show and a good friend. And I have supported the JCCF for a long time, not just in word, but in financial donations, because I think they do an indispensable job and they do great work. But if people think just because they were supporting you with your legal expenses, it was just an easy road. I mean, just if you could think for a minute, people, that this man had to go uproot himself frequently from his job in Saskatchewan to sit in a courtroom in Ottawa for days on end, listening to this day in and day out. And it's the other elements of lawfare that are not picked up. Are you financially, Chris? Are you okay? Because I see somebody starting a Give Send Go. I think Tamara is starting Give Send Go for you. Is that something that's absolutely required right now? Should people support that, and should we be telling people more about it?
Well, utmost, first and foremost, JCCF has been there. JCCF is funding Diane Magus, who is my lead counsel when it comes to the forfeiture on Big Red. The issue right now, we brought Brendan Miller in to represent my parents, CB Trucking, and Jonathan's interest in it. And that's where the cost has been occurred right now. So talking with Tamara yesterday, we were like, how do we do this politely without kind of stepping on the toes of the JCCF? Because I think Brendan Miller's legal bills were pretty high. It was a lot. And that's something that wasn't covered under the JCCF. So do we do a quick, Give Send Go to cover some of that cost on that? I think the bill was up over $50,000 just for legal expenses, just for Brendan to come and represent that. And it was worth it, because the more we had for representation going forward on that, it saved the truck. It's too bad that we have to go down that road. But so we're still weighing the pros and cons right now on the Give Send Go. We might just have a fundraiser in the spring or something to recover the cost of that lawyer. But first and foremost, the GCCF is the one that has followed us right through this. We still have the $300 million lawsuit on there for Paul Champ and Zexi Lee. The Justice Center is representing the majority of us on that. They got me through my criminal charges. They're going to work through the appeals right now. So JCCF's the priority. We'll figure out this other stuff later. We've been selling a lot of merchandise on the website, and that's put some money in the bank account too. So that'll go to cover most of the legal costs. But unfortunately, I don't think it's been quite that much. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it one way or the other. So people keep their eyes open for it. I'd like to do a little bit of a fundraiser on the farm in the summertime. I got an amazing man in Saskatchewan that's got a band, and he said, you know what, we should come down to the farm and we'll open the shop up and we'll have a big party night. And I thought that'd be a cool idea. When the weather warms up in the spring, we might just do that.
Well, I can't wait to mention that to Katie. I think she's just got back after 4 or 5 days away from it all. She went to visit her family in Kelowna, and she's back now, ready to fight again, ready to do it absolutely necessary to get that quarantine lifted. But she's going to be so heartened to hear that because she loves you and Tamara so much for what you've done and the support you've offered. And I'll tell you this: when I met you during the Freedom Convoy, I kept hearing about this guy named Big Red. Found you in the hotel lobby, did an interview with you for Human Events, and I think, it was Human Events. I was doing the story for all that week, and I ended up going on Fox News a number of times talking about, this Canadian journalist who works for American media outlets. And I mentioned you. I said, I sat down with Big Red today. I met Big Red, and somebody mentioned to me after the interview. He said, "Big Red's the truck," but.
Well, that's my, so every trucker out here, we have CB handles. So that's the thing you got to remember. Big Red is the name of the truck, but I've got Big Red on the little insignia written on the door. And when I meet a trucker on the road, I always get a shout out, "Hey, Big Red," that's our CB handle as well as the name of the truck. So yeah, it's amazing. You know, I'm so privileged to be the guy that gets to drive this truck and represent this truck and represent the movement that it stands behind. And, you know, I driving on freezing rain the other day in Wisconsin, I was like, oh boy, the roads are completely sheer ice. I do not want to, you know, if I hit the ditch or if somebody else hits the ditch, you know, it'll cause, you know, chaos. So I found a spot to park and I waited it out. Whereas years ago, you know, I'd try and suffer through that and make it through. But now, you know, the livelihood of this truck is everything. So I've got to protect it with all means.
Well, Chris, I know you've got to get back on the road. I don't want you to contravene any of your and that's but I thank you again for being available on short notice, and I'm going to write up something for Post Millennial and Blaze Media about this as well, because Americans are tremendously interested in what potentially could have happened to you yesterday. The very idea of a government seizing somebody's private property over a so-called crime like this, over mischief. People are just absolutely floored when they hear this. So I'm definitely going to follow up with a few articles.
Well,
I'll say again from the bottom of my heart, Chris. What you've done took tremendous personal courage. I think it took more courage than most people in uniform sometimes have to exhibit. Certainly in the way things are in Canada. But I really appreciate your continued desire to fight for truth and to fight for justice, because that is something it's easy to talk about. It's easy to talk about. I'm a truth teller. I want justice and to be all. I'm all for Canada, but it's more difficult to do it, to demonstrate it, to show what you're worth, and to show how much you value it. And you've done that. You've done that. You've shown it. You're going to continue to show it. Is anything we can do in terms of promote? If you need to give Send Go, if you anything we can do to promote this, I'm here for you. I always have been. From the day I first met you, I've been there with you and for you on this. I don't care if people say I'm not objective enough about it. This to me has been like the Second World War. I'm sorry you had to take a side. And I'm sorry you had to be on our side, not the other side, because the other side was wrong. The other side was evil. And I made that decision very early in the Freedom Convoy. I decided you and Tamara and the people out there protesting the evil that was going on in Canada were on the right side. And I wanted to be on the right side of history. So you have been on the right side of history. And thank you, Chris, for your work.
I'm just a small part out of it, Dave, but I appreciate it. I've met so many amazing people along this journey, and I continue to meet more every day. And, you know, thank you for all you do and you speaking out too. So that means a lot. It's amazing. There's been so many opportunities to have lifelong friendships here, and I'm thankful for that. So.
Well, thanks for your time, Chris, and Vaya con Dios. Have a great rest of your weekend, and get home safely. And
Merry Christmas to everybody out there, okay? Have a beautiful holiday.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to you and your wife and your family, and God bless you in every way possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, Dave.
You too. And that, of course, was Chris Barber, Big Red, and it was so nice to talk to Chris. He's been a tremendous source of inspiration for me. I love that guy, and I love all he stands for, and we're going to continue to fight for what he stands for. Thank you for watching today. This has been David Crayden for Stand on Guard, broadcasting live from Ottawa and from Saskatchewan as well. Bye. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I am going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Crayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.